in Africa. I understand we have listeners all the way in Malawi and Kenya, right there in the Bailiwick of Jersey, the United Kingdom, Canada, United States of America, in South America. Wherever you are hearing our voice, welcome to this very special presentation today of Bell D Nation. It is indeed the biggest conversation on this side of the globe. And so, as usual, I'm asking that you make yourself comfortable, get a glass of something special, and converse with us this evening. It's a hybrid between our conversation and a press conference of sorts, as well as general discussions in relation to coronavirus and you. As usual, we have our usual scripture verse, which says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." And so this evening, our hybrid of a press conference discussion serves to communicate important news. We are actually leading a campaign for us to understand what is, or I should say, what are some key elements associated with mandatory vaccination here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and connected with us at the National Liberation Movement. It involves participation from a number of representatives here this evening, and I again want to welcome you on their behalf. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are already in the Christmas season, of course. The discussions almost everywhere since the eve of Christmas 2020 was indeed about coronavirus and its impact on us as a nation, and its impact on the whole world, as we know. A precursor to this was the Great Reset, and thereafter, through social media and orchestrated online campaigns from several news mediums, we have had a highlight within this world about this unprecedented occurrence. We thought at first it was a health issue. Thereafter, we are where we are today. The major question in the minds of many people is whether the coronavirus and the issuance of a vaccination card correlates with constructive dismissal of many workers, and whether indeed that is specific to health per se. We also have the issue of the emergence of a central bank digital currency, and in combination with both, I should say, the vaccination card as well as the central bank digital currency, one would want to ask whether those are not tools for control, ultimately, of a population. Ladies and gentlemen, we've organized this session. The National Liberation Movement is a movement with a political arm. You will be hearing a bit about that in a while from now. And I'm your hostess, Doris Charles, of Bell D Nation, a bi-weekly talk show aired worldwide through the Bay Hill News Network. So, for small island states like ours, putting the remaining of our discussion in context. For small island states like ours, with a population of just close to 110,000 persons, the impact of the coronavirus disease is quite troubling. Some claim that it poses an existential threat to our people. The latest figures of the disease is this. We've had 5,562 persons with coronavirus, deaths 74, persons recovered, 4,992. And again, we say our deepest condolences to those who are bereaved. I mentioned briefly about the Great Reset. And so the National Liberation Movement noted that this phenomenon, the Great Reset, is conceived by the World Economic Forum under its chief executive officer and founder, Professor Klaus Schwab. The World Economic Forum has as its strategic foundation partner, only strategic foundation partner, last time I checked, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we know, of course, Bill Gates is more popular than his wife. And then we have Professor Schwab, who is an economist, and Mr. Gates, the philanthropist. They are among some of the wealthiest persons in the world. The World Economic Forum aims to change the economic future of our planet and the way that we use our well-earned money. The National Liberation Movement, of which I'm a part, seeks at all times to present to this nation its findings through thorough research and to offer some measure of guidance to the members of its audience. The general welfare of our people is of paramount importance to us, and this is why we are relentless in doing what we do: educate, inform, guide, give solutions, provide a platform for you to ask questions as we seek together with you to reshape our destiny. Have you heard of the term or terminology, you'll own nothing and be happy, presumably by 2030? This evening among us here, you're going to hear their perspective on a number of issues, and some of this will be weaved into the conversation. So by 2030, in keeping with an agenda designed for the human race, we are led to believe that our destiny is in the hands of others who are far removed from our experiences as Vincentian citizens. Some suggest and question whether our world will be led by an authoritarian government and whether the coronavirus is one such phenomenon that will accelerate the implementation of the Great Reset. The other question is whether the blurring of the lines between the digital, the physical, and the biological spheres of our existence could so develop to the point of creating transhumans.
AI.
Is this a good force? Is this a force for good, where the world will be greener, where the world will be a fairer place, a change in the ways in which we view capitalism and democracy, and so on? But do these issues make sense, given the diversity in livelihoods? And what really is the truth? Is it that these are mere speculations? Could it be that the philosophy of the Great Reset, orchestrated by the World Economic Forum, is taken from a page of a rule book that has been designed by Jesuit priests? The parent organization of the Jesuits, of course, is the Catholic Church. So with the emergence of coronavirus, Professor Klaus Schwab is on record to say that indeed coronavirus is to be used to accelerate the fourth industrial revolution, which is part of the Great Reset. So we have the issue of mandatory vaccination, of course, which is contrary to the constitutions of sovereign states like ours. Section 1, of course, is called into question. And, of course, contrary to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 7, the self-same international covenant that St. Vincent and the Grenadines acceded to on the 9th of November, 1981. The issue of that vaccination card, the use of central bank digital money, the beginning of the control of human activity such as the world has never seen or known. And so with regards to the presence of our United Nations Human Rights Rapporteur, David Boyd, who is still here, we want to thank him for his visit. And we believe that as country rapporteur, his report under consideration will not only reflect the issues of climate change and sustainable environmental health, but more specifically, the existing violations with regards to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The country rapporteur usually takes the lead in drafting a list of issues and in drafting concluding observations to be discussed and adopted by the various human rights committees under the auspices of the Human Rights Commissioner. Is it likely that Mr. Boyd will also discuss the human rights implications of the mandatory vaccinations? Is it that there are human rights implications given Article 7 of the ICCPR? Is this in keeping with the provisions of the constitutions of St. Vincent? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce us now to those persons who I believe will be able to articulate more fully on aspects of what I have just touched. Before though, I am positive that you, Mr. Boyd, your objective should have been met. In your own words, you did say, I am keenly interested in the national implementation of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. You did say that your visit will provide you a chance to evaluate how this right is translated into national implementation. The National Liberation Movement will be keen on hearing and following up on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, to my right, or I should say to my left, my extreme left, my immediate left is Mr. Gregory Edwards, better known as Shaka. He is an activist in his own right. He is a journalist in his own right. And he is also one of the presenters, I think the main presenters of the daily show called Cocoa Tea and Bread. And I want Mr. Edwards to tell our viewing audience just a brief hello, and we'll come back to you. Just a brief hello.
Hey, greetings all one. You know how we are as usual. But you see, I don't blame the Empress the way she introduced me, and me she talk about. The name there gave me parents and then give me a response.
Okay.
My name is Shaka.
Okay.
See?
All right. Okay. Shaka. All right. Good. Well, Shaka, we want to welcome you very much to this program. Then going to my, yes, we move around from Shaka. We go to our renowned agronomist with over 3 decades of experience. And we want to thank you very much for taking the time out to be with us this evening. His name is Mr. Clive Bishop. I know him, but I am sure most of St. Vincent and the Grenadines know him popularly as Bishai. And he has been in and around the community. I think he's also associated with other groups, one of them being Nature I. And so we want to thank you very much for lending us your support this evening and your expertise. So briefly.
Thank you. Good day to all tuning locked into this program. This is Ras Bishai. That's the name when I am up like this, you know.
All right.
The other name is the name that they use today. The world that we live in.
Okay.
And you'll hear more about that as we go on. But hope that you're having a good day and that you will full enjoy the reason that we have this evening.
Okay. And next to him, to his right, to his left, which is to my right, is Mr. Dave Kolzak. I call him Ras Dave. I've gotten to know him just recently, but I am told that he is one of the best in terms of an entrepreneur here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, one of the best in terms of cabinet making. But besides that, he's also an activist and a journalist par excellence in his own right. And so we want to welcome you to this program this evening. We want to greet.
Good day to everyone.
Good day.
David Culture, better known as Bungulawi.
Bungulawi.
Yes.
All right.
Very skillful with my hands, you know. Full of plenty self-confidence with that. To everyone who viewing us,
Yes.
big up.
All right. Thank you. And last but by no means least, this is the one and only John Horace Baylis Frederick at age 97. I'm also pleased to say that not only is he an attorney at law, but having traveled here from Tobago in the early 1960s, I'm told, he has worked with the Attorney General's office in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has been a magistrate as well, and has been in the field of law for upwards of 60 plus years. He's also my father, and I want to welcome him very much to this evening's program. So, Mr. Frederick, Dad, give us at least a brief hello.
Thank you, Brother Lily. Doris Frederick is a Tobagonian by birth, of intention by citizenship. And I have been motivated all my life by a simple incident which I'd like to put very shortly to explain why I think the stand for justice and fair play with everything about me and everything coming from me and my actions and my way, lifestyle and everything is based upon truth and justice. I have been dishonorably discharged as a police officer from the Trinidad Police Force, and up to now that dishonorable discharge follows me as if it has dyed my character. It cannot be erased, and it troubles me all along. Yet, up to now, nobody can say what is it I was charged with, I was accused with, I was summoned to an ordinary room or taken to a court or anything to be punished for wrongdoing anyway and so on. And the only reason why they have dishonorably discharged me by directives of the then governor of Trinidad and Tobago is that a woman accosted me and I threatened to lock her up. And she was the wife of a Colonel Pocock and a sister to a Captain Roy Alston. And I was dishonorably discharged without trial, without anything and so on. And I have hankered after justice since that discharge. I make no apologies for truth and for fair play. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to return to you shortly. But we go back to Shaka. Your thoughts on what is now transpiring in St. Vincent and the Grenadines specific to mandatory vaccination, the coronavirus disease, and so on. Specific to that, your thoughts, your impressions of what we are facing today as a nation.
Well, upon everything we are going and just simply trying to control our mind by fear. Now, if you look on a whole bag of things going on during the time, there was one time when people used to come across and show you how the money of viral weaving, they show you hold it so, and you could see by some, under some lightweight something, a whole bag of skate. Because no, the way Babylon works, the only way they could control people is by fear. And the greatest fear is for them to introduce an invisible enemy. Because you see, when your enemy is invisible, it is not easy for you to respond. And so now, this is exactly what's going on. Because if we notice, in every way they try to sell this vaccine, they apply fear. Right? Now, and just a while ago when we traveled forward by my virgin, they cut time on the Medina bus, right? And now, them and them, enough of them talk show hosts, and where people are considered to be the think tanks. And that's why I tell my people must stop this mainstream. Now, hear what he said. He cannot see how some vaccine teachers could sit out inside of the staff room and refusing to go to the classroom because they're in solidarity with their mates who didn't take it. He can't see that because you see, he closes his mind to the thing called solidarity. And that is what is plaguing us here. That's why they always win, they always in control. Because our problem is we lack our own self-confidence and to be in solidarity with one another until the fire burns. So, in a nutshell, basically, is that they're using the fear, our fears, against us, and we're allowing them to.
You're part of a national liberation movement, and it is based on the discussions you have had previously, it is a movement with a political arm. How do you see yourself being part of that movement? Sort of like, how do you say, being instrumental in any way in articulating, information about coronavirus, about our development as a people, and so on.
Well, when you talk about politics, now my interpretation of politics should be in people's business, right? And then people have to be in control of people's business. And how I see government, right? I see government that came from the people, for the people, created by the people, for the use of the people. Coming from our ancestral teaching, that's it. We select our legitimate leaders from amongst ourselves. And from the teaching of Marcus Garvey, that say, we have to be creative if we can't find work, we make work, right? Now, I see the National Liberation Movement as a government where the people govern. Whether you on the street in this so-called position that they call vagrant, which I don't defend in terms, but still, as we getting across, whether you're vagrant or who you still have something to say, right? Because there is a reason why you are where you are, and you know how to express that. So, no, we need a movement where we can have all of these, everything. Because
giving people a voice.
Yes, if the people don't build the nation, then the nation is not built. Right? But Mali put on the Facebook or flag with them thing, but we have to repeat one another. If Rasta not fight, then the revolution have to fight over again.
Okay.
Meaning, if the people don't fight, then the revolution will not be won.
Okay. And you believe that we are in some form or format of a revolution? The mere fact that we are trying to survive, the mere fact that we are trying to create our own livelihoods or recreate our own livelihoods, the mere fact that we want to reshape our destiny, you also believe that firmly, being a part of this national liberation movement, a movement with a political arm, that this is going to strengthen our resolve together in terms of recreating who we are as a people here on the island of St. Vincent.
All I say is that I respond to a war that was declared upon I by the government. See? And then, like I old Chinese teacher and that attack is the best means of defense. Right? Now, that don't mean that I are the aggressors, because I never declare war.
Okay.
I put some people in place to defend us who turn around and declare war against us, whether or not we like it or not. They don't care about that. So what we are saying now, we must respond in time. Because, I mean, quite simple. Quite simple. We are in control.
The people.
Yes.
The people of St. Vincent
Are in control.
Are in control of themselves. Are in
Of
control
the government,
of
of the economy,
government.
of everything that makes us what we are. Why? We pay their salary, they don't pay our salary.
Okay.
Right? They work for us, we do not work for them, but they flip the script. So it's here we are now. What we doing now, we deleting and reprogramming the chip.
So we are talking to our nationals, we are talking to fellow Vincentians here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, as well as in the diaspora.
Look at which part power today.
Correct.
You have a role to play.
Okay.
So we are saying now, we have the trained minds right here among us, regardless to which part they might spread.
Right.
We have the people who know how to move our island forward, right? And because, I mean, we know what we want. We know where we want to go, all of us,
All right.
So then what we are saying now, but you know there are some of us who went for a certain level of training that might be able to put more clarity to certain things towards the directions, right? These people are the ones who must come forward. Because now, we have to be conscious in one thing, you know.
Yes.
Now, your education, you don't have none to do with it, you know. You did not give it to yourself. It's the sacrifice of your people that make you, give you the education you have, and you owe it on to your people simply because you are a member of the people, so you owe it on to yourself.
So we are members one of another.
Of course,
Yes. Okay.
and all of us owe it on to ourselves.
Okay.
So we have to start to see it from that way. So we are going to ask, you know, the brothers and sisters, and then basically, we are going to ask it, I would love to see the thing change, when we say change, totally change, and that a woman prime minister, and I suggest Doris to the world. I mean, nothing cast in a concrete, but then I will start somewhere. And I say now, I would love to see the sisters and them come forward and play a role in one of the main reasons among that, for that, is to combat rape. Because that is too much in our island here. So, and in order to bring forward familyhood to our youths. Because right now, we are see the amount of unwanted pressure that is handing down on our sisters and mothers, etc., cause a negative effect on all of us. So we have to find a way to settle that.
Right.
By putting the woman and them in a proper place, a place of leadership. Because we can't say that the woman can lead.
Right.
Because all of us were talking, she first led us before we could ever walk.
All right. Okay, thank you very much for your vote of confidence. And thank you very much for talking about the issue of rape. That would probably be one of our programs, a later program that we'll have to address. That critical issue of rape, and by extension I want to say violence against the girl child and women generally.
I should say violence in the family.
Violence in the family, yes. All right, thank you very much. Although we're very little away from the issue of coronavirus and you, but all in all, in terms of development,
you see how it fits in, fits in, right?
Yes.
What is happening to us?
Yes.
Damage us so psychologically that we cannot even handle corona or whatever.
Okay.
Because of our mind, our self-confidence, because of that damage.
Yes.
It's lacking.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm going over now to Mr. Clive Bishop, who is our, who is our agronomist. I want to throw something your way. This morning somebody sent me a news item, because I receive news items, all as we would do, a news item from all over the place. This one was specific to a $40 million that was actually sent or received by our government. But there was something specific that I noted. The narrative seemed to point to the fact that it is the indigenous peoples of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that $40 million was catered to. You have any thoughts on that in light of our rebuilding efforts and an attempt at the resilience of our society, so to speak, post-COVID, post-volcanic eruptions? Yes, please.
Thank you. First of all, I must big up I'm on Gary Funa family.
Yes.
And Master Rastafari family internationally. Respect.
Thank you.
Okay. And also to thank Brother Bing Yours for setting that level. Mm-hmm. Right? For the reason. Now, I want to start from the point that the brother made, the final point. This, where we are right now as a people, on earth, right? We are in a mental war. Your biggest weapon is your mind. And if your mind has been damaged by slavery, colonialism, Jim Crowism, whatever ism or schism, right? You'll be weaker than those people who have survived and have been brought forth now out of the system, which I call the Babylon system, to stick up. Because if you can't put mind over matter right now, you're in real trouble. So not only a virus itself would affect you, but the philosophy of the virus, which is more damaging, where it came from, the whole corona episode will have you in a state of fright, and that's more dangerous than any pathogenic infection. Because if you're sensible, as we know, basically, pathogens do not attack a healthy person or a healthy plant, period. So you're not healthy. So the first rule, you have to be healthy. My reasonable base on us, a people, and as a people, anywhere you are, but I'm specifically speaking about the people of this land you're in, which is called St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because it's registered as a corporation. That story will come in another time. On the 7 basic principles of our first ancestors, the principles of math. Shaka spoke about some of them, Doris spoke about some of them. The principles of truth, order, balance, harmony, law, morality, which Shaka just spoke about there, and justice, which she barely spoke about. And if you're not standing on those things, you could call yourself all kind of United Nations or FAO or whatever, World Economic Forum. If you're not standing on them, as Shaka just say, and I was say, fire burn you, you're gone. Mm-hmm. You're not sticking up in this Armageddon. Mm-hmm. But this is not a battle of physical and a battle of who have nuclear weapons and so on, you know. Because nature have more weapons than nuclear weapons any day. So all who think that their technology and the nuclear weapons and the inventions of vaccines, which are not of a creative nature of the creator, not nature itself, could frighten us, and coming down now to mandatory legalese, which they call laws, to try and stop people from or not living in the system that they run, could frighten us. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're out of order because your time is so short that not even you alone know it. I see this whole corona thing now as a scramble by the system to try and reinvent itself, but they're failing real bad. They are failing every level of this coronavirus. Whether in the Caribbean, whether in North America, South America, well, don't talk about in Africa. When the virus broke out early in 2020 or late in 2019, right? The first people that were affected internationally were non-melanated people. Check it out, go and check the history. They come now and they try to make the variants with the genetically modified systems and so on. and states starting and their press, which they own and control, to spread the propaganda.
So let me cut you a bit. So you're saying that in your esteemed position as an agronomist, and based on your knowledge of all things agronomy, that there has been some measure of manipulation of a virus.
Total of well, they call it a virus, of whatever combination of organisms they have.
Okay.
But that was one of the front. That is the virus part. But the COVID-19 is much more than a virus. The COVID-19 is a package which includes the virus.
Right.
Because there are covert things going on behind the 19, like the total reset, and good things also which you don't know, but a lot of people don't know. That's happening.
Yes.
Because in a few weeks' time, the real republic constitution of the Americas, the nation of the Americas, will come out.
Okay.
Not USA.
Not United States, of the Americas, including St. Vincent, including European, will come out.
Okay. So we're touching a bit there on the indigenous philosophical view of humankind.
And the real United Nations will shine, because the United Nations, even those who they're here right now, the gentleman I name called, they represent a false United Nations which is owned and controlled by a few billionaires. We know that. They think we don't know that, but we know that.
Right.
So when they come here with their plans about this 40 million US dollars, which in itself is not a grant, it's a loan. It's a no interest loan with a longer period, moratorium for about 10 years. But when this crop of parliamentarians, because the whole government is parliamentarians, they're not just the opposition, the government as they call them, the two sides of the same bag penny. When they're gone, it's our children and grandchildren who have to repay that loan. Okay? And that loan, as you correctly said, was obtained mainly on the premise and the fact that most of the people in the affected red zone and St. Vincent, designated red zones, east, north and south, east and west, are indigenous peoples. Right? Garifuna, Kalinago, African, the mix between them, right? These are the people. More than 75% of the people who live in these areas are of that ethnicity. So it was easy to obtain that loan. Now,
I want you to say that again, in terms of the whole concept that the loan was geared towards the restructuring or refurbishing, or rather helping the resilience of the communities that were affected in the red zone. That's what you're basically saying, and those persons are indigenous persons, so they should be receiving a lot from this 40 million.
I love how you say it, and those are their own words. Now, here's the thing, restructuring to go in. Let us check the situation of that area pre-COVID.
Yes.
In 2018, the same United Nations and the World Bank, all these people came out with a poverty report, National for St. Vincent Grenada. You remember that report?
Yes.
The most poverty was in that area.
Correct.
So why are you going back to restructure into poverty?
Well, that's another dynamic observation that
You're going to restructure the poverty which has grown in the last 15 years. Who grew the poverty? Who was in office when the poverty has grown? So you're giving money to the same people who are in government growing poverty to go back to growing poverty? Well, that would make sense to nobody in Camptown. That's where I'm from. Now, wrong here in rural America.
Not in America.
Right? That even not by the even to Black 2000. You know, make about no sense to people. Okay? So here what we are saying now. Remember during this last 20 years, you know, what was left of our civil society, which came together somehow in 2000 to block road and to do different things, and you know, was totally smattered by the front edge of this administration.
Okay.
It wasn't their own creative thought. Because they are controlled and manipulated, even in this COVID, by the people behind the scenes. The same people you talk about who own Create World Economic Forum.
Yes, yes.
Okay?
Because remember, there was a partnership agreement that was signed in June of 2019 between United Nations and the World Economic Forum. There is talk about this fourth industrial revolution. There's talk about the Great Reset, and one wonders what exactly are the components within that particular partnership. And one wonders whether we here in St. Vincent and Grenadines are on the receiving end of any sort of partnership agreement, the dictates of that, and that's why there is this forced mandatory vaccination.
Now you said something there which triggered something in I, which is very important. These as they name them, first, second, third industrial revolutions.
Yes.
Where did the goods and the services come from in the first industrial revolution? These people, they never had any. They create an economy by creating slavery.
I hear you. So are you actually saying or hinting that we are into some sort of new form of slavery?
That is what they're trying to do, technological slavery and mental slavery. But it's not going to work. Not here, it's not working in Africa. Let me just give you a statistic which is similar to Africa right in the Caribbean, right in St. Vincent. Okay? Over 4,500 people have been diagnosed with COVID. They call it a pandemic, you know.
Yes.
73 people have died.
That's 71. One estimates is 74.
74. Well, the one doesn't make any difference when you're dealing with the statistics.
Yes.
It's 0.016%.
Yes.
Now that equates to about 1,700 and something people dying a year out of a population of 110,000 people, which is normal. Now in Shaka is a farmer,
Yes.
Dave is a farmer.
Yes.
I am a farmer too. I like to pride myself by the,
Yes.
I don't know. If you set seedlings and you only lose 0.16%, you call almost 100% success.
Excellent.
So you're talking about, you can't call it a pandemic or a plague or thing. They just use the media to blow this thing out of proportion. More people have died in a normal year in St. Vincent and Grenadines than who died in the last year when we had coronavirus. Let them bring the records and disprove me if I'm wrong.
All right.
Okay? So this whole thing is a hype. But going forward now to the money that has come in here.
Yes.
Because they have destroyed civil society, any kind of a community organization, there are no
Structures.
new groupings, independent groupings with voices, and forget about the opposition, because they have no opposition in this place. You have two sides of the same coin. You spin the toss, head, you win, tail, you still win. Same thing!
Okay.
Because Shaka made a point about we pay them. That is true. But some of them get paid again. So the person who pay them the most is who they serve. They get paid from us, and they abuse us, and they get paid at the same time from outside to abuse us. So the outside pays sweeter. So they follow the dictates from outside. That is why we have to change the whole system.
Okay.
Not just party and government, we have to change the entire system.
Okay.
Now, in repairing the area, that area has some culture which is golden, which is emerald in terms of value. You can't put money value to it. The oldest indigenous crop in the Americas, in the entire Americas, is arrowroot. The second oldest one is cassava. And then you have the corn from the Mexican people and so on coming up. These are the crops. Cassava and arrowroot are indigenous to the people in the affected zones. Look at the arrowroot factory now. It's gone because the system over the last 5-10 years, especially over the last 5 years, coming from outside, the dictates is to restructure the economy of these countries, not to include agriculture, but to include tourism, where the rich, white, and famous would come and play and develop what they call their bitcoins, their cryptocurrency, Tales from the Crypt. That's right, they're going up right in the crypt. And have us in this mental economic slavery which we just mentioned. Okay? So we now are the people, and all of us here have been chosen, pulled together from different aspects, but together with a purpose to help to liberate our people, first mentally, And parallelly, with getting them to understand what development is, working together in harmony, right? That is why I am happy to be a part of the National Liberation Movement. We are a movement. The other side, I will answer that some other time, but we are, anytime you have a movement, you have politics. That's all I was saying, but there is no parties and politics because his emperor, Haile Selassie, was the most adroit politician in his time. And diplomat, okay? Politics is part of human, but when you start to divide people and so on, you're going down the other road.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Dave, I call you Ras Dave, that is my name for you. You've given me another name and so on.
I accept.
And you accept that. Becoming an entrepreneur, what's the value of that? You would have heard, just like us, that there are a number of persons that have been displaced. I would say constructive dismissal. They were asked to leave. I have the testimony of at least 3 persons. One of them said that she went back to her work of, her employer, and she was forcibly removed. No hands were laid on her, but the words, it's almost pushed out of the gates, so to speak, and locked out. That there are other civils, some want to go back, but he was that way at all under any circumstances. And I said, like, what? Under any circumstances? He said, yes, and these are just testimonies of persons. For fear from retribution and anything else, they gave their testimonies, but did not want to appear on camera of sorts, and I appreciate that. But rebuilding, refocusing family life, refocusing, becoming an entrepreneur. What are your thoughts in light of all of this?
Well, first I must say, you see, when love have leave the hearts of our people, you gotta expect anything.
Repeat that again, because sometimes we don't get it. When
love has leave the
hearts of people,
of our people, you expect anything.
You expect anything.
Okay?
Right.
Because how can you force something on somebody with the intention if they didn't take it, they're gonna lose their livelihood? What you expect of that person? So this is where now thinking, okay, had to come in, because what you have been cut off from you. So you have to be thinking of how can you, because your whole idea is not because of what you lose, you're gonna make that carry down to the thing. You gotta rise above that.
Okay.
And this is when all the entrepreneurship
So
stepped in.
you have to have a mindset.
You have to have a mindset.
Change mindset, yes.
Okay? Not because one thing gonna mean, well, everything follow. No.
Right.
This is where I tell you gotta think, no, because amongst our people, even in our country, there's a lot of stuff that you couldn't get into as an individual. Make yourself just doing plenty things.
Okay, so if you don't have a skill in terms of like carpentry or masonry.
Well, that is simple.
Yes.
Okay? I don't have a skill
Yes.
as a tradesman.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I want to say tradesman. Generally, trade is what really start everything.
Okay.
Okay? Because even to build a little stand, it's a farmer's skill.
Okay.
Right? You have to have an idea.
You must have an idea.
How you're gonna have this thing set, how you're gonna do it. So as I keep always saying, is that yes, things may be rough.
Yes.
You might need to walk with somebody, but you yourself have to make yourself industrious. You couldn't go to this. You got to go to the earth,
Right.
because it's one thing I always say when I listen to this statement in the Bible. The Almighty have prepared a table before your enemies.
Okay. Okay.
It's not your physical table in your house.
Right.
It is the earth.
Okay. So you are encouraging persons who are listening to us, those who have suffered as a result of mandatory vaccination / constructive dismissal, and you're saying to them that one of the ways in which they can retrain their minds, so to speak, and refocus is going back to the earth.
Go to the earth.
Yes.
That's the father. That's the mother. She's gonna nourish you. She's gonna teach you everything.
Okay.
Okay?
Right. Okay.
Because entrepreneurship starts with you, the individual.
As the individual. Okay, Mr. Frederick, Dad, I want to put us, give us a context in terms of mandatory vaccination and constructive dismissal. I want for you to help us understand this whole concept of our constitutional right, and what is it that we as Vincentians are facing when our government say to us, if you can't take the vaccine, and howsoever they construct the terms, and they're very subtle in some of the information that I have heard and seen, so that there are persons who constructed, I want to constructive dismissal, but a sort of, how do you differentiate between my right to work, my choice, so to speak, of this vaccine, and my refusal to take it? I don't know if I'm making much of a sense there when I'm, yes? Okay.
Now, let me begin, please,
Yes.
by saying this, that COVID is not an accidental phenomenon. It's not. It's the wrath of God falling down upon man, his created sons and daughters. And nobody, I say nobody, not the Catholic Church, not the Anglican Church, not the Seventh-day Adventist Church, not no church or not no Christian church or not, has taken up the fight, has taken up the banners and marched forward as soldiers of the Most High God. None. Because God has not made this world accidental. By accident this will happen, or by everything is by design and purpose. No. When man is born, he has a purpose. There is some purpose why he was here. He didn't ask to be here. He didn't get no passport from God or anything. God didn't make any particular set of man to that white man and black man, and God didn't do anything of those that sort of segregation, classification. God made man to serve God. God made man to continue God's creative endeavors, to made everything set out to facilitate the journey man has from birth to death, from birth to eternal life. God made people to be perfect. Now, what has happened is that man has been looking for comfort and satisfying of his desires, and not the reality of life. has been created by God and provided in a garden, provided by God with everything that man would need. Man hasn't, up to now, all man on this planet have not sort of stopped to recognize the reality of why God made man. But we have been fortunate in having the drafters, the people who draft the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A beautiful set of people. I do not know them personally. I have heard of them. I have been, and let me boast this a little bit. I have gone with Joshua, Ebenezer Joshua, to Britain on the question of the
Adult suffrage or referendum or so? Statehood?
The statehood thing. I have been with Joshua. I was his legal advisor, and I have been participant, not to draft the Constitution, but in the debates and so on. And I started from 10 Downing Street, right down. And these men that were chosen to draft the Constitution were giants in their own right, and they have carved out a document that the preamble says it.
Yes.
Now, the preamble says also that what has happened is the creation.
Yes. Going ahead.
The creation and Jerusalem. The creation of a state in which man would fulfill his destiny, put it that way, and has set out the declaration of the right to freedom, privileges, and the what man should, the society
privileges
should
and rights and freedoms. Yes.
Yes, and the question of the what is mentioned in the preamble, and one should sort of read the preamble to understand precisely what is.
Okay.
But the preamble first sets out the supremacy of God.
Yes.
And the preamble supplies the freedoms and everything, the privileges and everything that man should expect in the society in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the Constitution is the manual for the progress or otherwise for the governance of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's all there in the Constitution.
Right.
Now,
so would you want me to read a bit of it?
The preamble?
Yes.
By all means, if you can.
Whereas the peoples of the island of St. Vincent, who are known as Vincentians, have affirmed that the nation is founded on the belief in the supremacy of God.
One, yes.
And the freedom and dignity of man.
Right.
B, desire that their society be so ordered as to express their recognition of the principles of democracy, free institutions, social justice, and equality before the law. C, realize that the maintenance of human dignity presupposes safeguarding the rights of privacy of family life, of property, and the fostering of the pursuit of just economic rewards for labor. D, desire that their constitution should enshrine the above-mentioned freedoms, principles, and ideals. And whereas St. Vincent, which comprises the inhabited islands of St. Vincent, Beverly, and so on.
That is enough, please.
Okay.
Now, that preamble, it sets out the parameters, that is the boundaries of the thinking that man in St. Vincent, man and woman in St. Vincent should enjoy while they are on their road from birth to eternal life. Now,
So you're saying that this is absolute? Is that what you're saying, that it is unalterable? Is that what you're saying?
what I'm saying is that the preamble sets out the supreme law, because it is further down.
Yes.
The question that the Constitution is the supreme law of the state of St. Vincent and Grenadines
Yes.
is stated there.
Yes.
And supreme means above everything else,
Right.
above all.
Right.
And the law of the Constitution says that, for example, you can't walk in a man's yard without being invited or going in a man's yard to protect somebody from breaking the rules, the limits of the rights declared in the Constitution. Those rights, if they are broken by anybody, then you suspend the operation of that supreme law. But the supreme law says that the man who got shot by somebody or the other in his foot, that you can't walk in his place and shoot him. You can't. That is the supreme law.
Okay.
And as soon as, for example, that you come to the observance of the supreme law, that is first, that is above, that is above Parliament, that is above everybody, that's above the Prime Minister, that's above every single individual in this state. You've got to obey the supreme law of this country.
Okay.
Now,
yes.
we have the drafters of the thing,
Constitution.
the Constitution.
Yes.
They have set out.
Yes. Can I read that first part? The fundamental rights and freedoms.
Yes, sir.
1. Where every person in St. Vincent is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms, that is to say, the right, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest, to each and all of the following, namely: A. Life, liberty, security of the person, and the protection of the law. B. Freedom of conscience, of expressions and of assembly and association. And C. Protection for the privacy of his home and other property, and from deprivation of property without compensation. The provisions of this chapter shall have effect for the purpose of affording protection to those rights and freedoms, subject to such limitations of that protection as are contained in those provisions, being limitations designed to ensure that the enjoyment of the said rights and freedoms by any person does not prejudice the rights and freedoms of others or the public interest.
Second, hold a minute there. The limitations specifically lay out that if your enjoyment of your freedom infringes the right of the freedom of somebody else, then your right is suspended.
So hold on a minute. I am going down the road. I am not interfering with anybody. So I'm not infringing on anybody's rights.
Right. Nobody can do anything.
Right. So how then am I being? I'm suspected of a virus and then injected before there's any proof that I have a virus.
We come into that.
Okay.
The whole question of vaccination.
And mandatory, yes.
We have Ralph has successfully introduce the question of economics. That is, you will lose your work.
Yes.
You don't get no money. You're going worse off, and that sort of thing.
Right.
A threat to the people to get them to take vaccines. And here,
Yes.
one cannot sort of blame anyone for suspecting, without proof,
yes.
suspecting
Yes.
that there is a money
Yes.
flow somehow with this question of purchasing a vaccine, that somebody will get rich from the vaccine program the consumption of this vaccine.
But suppose we are given, as is the case sometimes, we are given large, well, for want of a better word, a grant, we're given a large consignment of vaccines, a gift from a country, a donor, agency, or, so what's that? Because you're talking now about, okay, probably persons shouldn't worry too much or what, fuss too much about the fact that vaccines,
my dear lady,
yes, vaccines are freely given, so therefore they should be a gift.
The Most High God
Yes.
has ordained it. And if you look somewhere in the first chapter of Romans, somewhere along there will tell you
Yes.
how to interpret the question of this vaccine.
Okay.
By this meaning this,
Romans chapter
that
1.
God itself has provided that if there's an element or something that affects man, and man cannot deal with it, the bacteria itself will manufacture as something to calm the vaccine that is destroying man is handiwork. That is there in the books, and nobody's looking at it. Bacteria multiplies infinitesimally, meaning to say it always multiplying, and it will multiply and destroy itself. God has arranged that, and scientists will tell you that. And one of the things that is happening to the whole world is that they are not believing in the scientists, they're believing in the politician, and the politician is only looking for money for himself.
Okay. So you're saying that there is that which is built into us called natural immunity.
What?
That is again.
What? That God is alive.
Yes.
There is no if or why, there's no other great question there.
Yes.
God is alive. And if you turn to God and ask God to solve what is going on, God will.
Okay.
Because God has promised that, and nobody could ever say that you call on God for something and God shall be back.
Okay.
They can't prove that.
Right. So I'm glad for that declaration that you're stating now.
What I'm saying therefore
Yes.
is that the question of the vaccine,
Yes.
we're not saying that a man should not take vaccination,
Okay.
but it is the procedure which is being adopted. You cannot vaccinate a man except that vaccine is approved, and it can be approved only by a referendum.
That is one's choice.
The politician can know not that fact is a fact.
No, I didn't say thought. I said choice in terms of in choosing, or put it another way, in order for persons to be mandated to be given a vaccine, that the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines should be altered according to the procedure that is outlined in the Constitution itself, which is section 38C.
No. 38 didn't say that.
38 did not say that? Let's
No.
see. Let's pull up that. 38. 37 or 38?
38,
Uh-huh.
the procedure
Yes.
to alter,
To alter.
and let people please go not to the pocket dictionary
Yes.
or the telephone or the phone, the telephone,
Yes.
the phone
Yes.
for a definition of what the word means.
Yes.
Don't do that, because the telephone and the pocket dictionaries tell you what the common interpretation is.
Right.
When I say common,
Yes.
one on the street, what he understands about the meaning,
Okay, so
and not what the meaning really is.
okay, so let me help us refocus here. Alteration of constitutions and supreme order. 38(2). A bill to alter any of the provisions of this constitution or the Supreme Court order shall not be regarded as being passed by the House unless, on its final reading, the bill is supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all representatives.
Yes, but go backwards a little bit.
Backwards, which 38(1).
The only way that you can alter, A-L-T-E-R,
Yes.
alter the Constitution
Yes.
is the provisions that 38 says.
38(3)(c), after it has been passed by the
Right,
House.
yes, that is so.
Okay.
But that is after
Yes.
you want to alter the Constitution.
Yes.
And you cannot alter the Constitution except by
Yeah,
the
2/3 of
provisions that laid out by the Section 38.
Right.
Agreed?
Yes.
But what I'm saying is this, that to alter the Constitution is that to do anything. The vaccine is the question of putting up compulsory vaccination to people
Yes.
is altering the Constitution, and you can't alter the Constitution. You have to go by a referendum first.
Yes, that is basically what is captured here. But 37 says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, Parliament may make laws for the peace, the order, and the good government of St. Vincent. I am wondering if Parliament, in making or trying to create mandatory vaccination, did make a law for the peace, the order, and good government of St. Vincent.
Really,
Yes.
let me state categorically without fear of contradiction. As a matter of fact, only a fool
Yes.
will read that and contradict what I'm going to say now. Parliament can make laws.
Right.
Parliament can make any law it wants. But Parliament cannot enforce the law. Parliament has no authority to enforce no law. Parliament cannot try a man for a crime. Parliament can do absolutely nothing but pass law or run them out however they want to. It is the Supreme Court that has the duty to interpret and apply the law, not Parliament.
So,
Not therefore.
yes.
Not therefore.
Yes.
To go and make these laws to compel people to take the vaccine
Mandatory vaccination.
is wrong. It is wrong. It is contrary to the constitutional rights of the citizens of this country. You cannot alter the Constitution. You cannot alter the guarantee of the fundamental rights. It is the supreme law of St. Vincent. Not a secondary law, you know. The supreme law, it is a law above all laws. It's first. So when they pass laws to go now and sort of enforce a change in the Constitution, then you're in problem.
So, Parliament has the power to make laws.
Yes.
when you're saying that that is within the limit of the judiciary.
Yes.
Okay.
It has to be by a referendum.
And
You have to follow the referendum.
Right.
And it said
Yes.
that in order to declare state of emergency, declare anything that touches the freedom of the citizen, that you've got to go by way of a referendum.
Yes. But then how would the Honorable Prime Minister of this country sit with other members of Parliament and decree and declare that if persons do not take the vaccine, this or that will happen to them? Why have
You know,
we as Vincentians
you know,
degenerated to this place
Let me tell you why.
where we are accepting that?
Vincentians lack knowledge.
Mm,
Vincentians don't know.
mm,
To them,
mhm,
to change the Constitution is the same connotation, the same meaning to them as castrating something. To change it means to castrate it. That is how they will interpret a change in the Constitution. But to change the Constitution, the meaning of the word used by the drafters of that Constitution is to sub the effect and the power and efficacy
yes.
of the change is important. Is the essence of change that the drafters anticipate.
Okay.
You cannot change the efficacy, how the operation of the Constitution will function,
Right.
how the freedom to the individual would sort of be seen and felt and implemented.
Yes.
You have to look at that and see that the change in the Constitution is if you do anything to the Constitution that changes that supreme guarantee that the Constitution gives to the citizens.
Okay. Now tell me something and tell us, can a law be legal and its effect be unlawful?
Oh Lord, yes.
Can you explain?
You have a legal law because one the child, take for example, let me make this bombshell.
Yes.
Take
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Take Canavan.
Yes.
Are the developers, they say.
And the developers.
And all the people who in Canavan, the
Developers.
the
The
developers,
hoteliers. Yes.
Yes. they are selling lots to other people, and they are selling lots that cannot in law be lawful.
Now you're touching on a very
Terribly important, deep, and dangerous something.
yes, because
Because those people in Canavan
Yes.
who buy lands from the leased land,
yes.
and let me go further to see how aggravating it is to Vincentian people. The law about mortgages is established for years, decades,
Yes.
centuries. Now, you can only sell or lease what you have. If you have a lease, you can't sell what is called in law fee simple. You can't sell something that is total ownership because you only got a lease.
Oh, their lease, right.
You could sell, you could give an ex-lease less term than the one that you hold by.
Correct.
But then, now what Ralph and them did, they go in the court and they take the lease and make it into the law
I think I read
to
that.
see if the law could change the age-old legal connotations of sovereignty.
Yes.
And nobody says a word about it. As a matter of fact, if you say a word about it, they look to do you something.
So we have got to be careful then that we
No, we have been there are not only that,
Yes.
there are several other things that they have done that are wrong. And you can't say anything because you're going to get victimized for it.
Yes.
Something will happen to you.
Yes.
And since I say this, I don't know if we're going home this evening, if somebody will try to shoot me, but I don't give a damn.
Mind over matter.
Yes, I understand. Yes.
But that is so. You cannot force a man to take vaccination.
Okay.
You can't. It's a freedom that you can't impinge at all. No. And you go and tell you passing law to force a man to take it. That law wrong. That law is wrong.
What would you advise in terms of, do we have any cause of redress against?
Go to court. I've been bawling that from the time they started. I've been bawling that from the time of this first petition with the Constitution. Go to court, and they're not going to court. They're doing it by the normal Supreme Court and ordinary procedures. And that can't affect the Constitution because the Constitution has its own procedures.
Yeah. So if I am a teacher, a nurse, or a doctor, and my head of department say to me, Doris, we do not want you back on the property
You
tomorrow.
breach a man's fundamental rights.
Yeah. And I come to work tomorrow and a police officer escorts me from the premises. What do I do then? Besides going home and crying and all that, what do I do in terms of my legal?
Let me talk without fear whatsoever. The only person in St. Vincent that has an inkling
Yes.
of knowledge suited to tackle this question on the Constitution is Jomo.
Jomo. Yeah, the learned counsel, Jomo Thomas.
Yes.
Yes.
Nobody else. All the others are dumb dunces. Because if they read that Constitution and study it, they will see that the Constitution contains in it everything necessary for its smooth functioning.
Mr. Frederick, I have to disassociate myself with the comments that you've made towards our learned counsels who have actually traveled wide and far to be part and parcel of the legal profession.
I mean, they don't.
I agree.
They don't.
Yes.
So what they've done to them done.
I agree that you are in support of the learned counsel, Jomo Thomas, but there are many others who would have been in various fields.
Then they are hypocrites.
There are many of them who
They are not. They are doing
hypocrites.
putting a face on something when indeed in fact they're thinking something else. They're not true to themselves.
Okay, so that is
And true to the people.
And true to the people.
yes, okay. All right. Okay, so any concluding remarks? We just want to thank you very much, Mr. Frederick. You have 1 more minute in terms of concluding remarks, and then we will.
And let me take that minute to say this.
Yes.
I have asked, I have advertised myself willing to take up this matter in court, and nobody takes me on. I understand that the saying about me going around between the people is that I'm too old.
Well,
I'm 97.
well, I was 97 indeed. Yes.
I'm too old, and I don't have money.
Okay.
And when the Ralph and them, when the judges who go to the supposed Ralph lick me with a fine I can't pay, I will have to go to jail. And that is what they're telling people about. I am not in a position to fight, they say. But I know that I am because they have not debarred me yet. They have not disbarred me.
Okay.
I am still on the roll as an attorney at law. and I speak
Yes.
without fear.
Yes.
Let them take me to court. As a matter of fact, I think that I would like to say lastly before I shut up
Yes.
is that of all that I have done in St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago,
Yes.
I have never been charged for anything.
Okay.
I have never been charged for anything.
No rape. No rape, right? No rape at all.
They arrested me. They put me in jail
Yes.
several times.
Yes.
But they let me go without a charge, without anything.
Yeah, nothing against you.
Yeah, about you don't charge, right?
No.
Yes. Yes, go ahead. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for enlightening us here at the National Liberation Movement, as well as to enlighten those within our viewing and listening audiences. I am particularly interested in the whole dynamics of the law, specific to mandatory vaccination, specific to our constitutional right, and what we can and cannot do, and that the Constitution indeed is the supreme law of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, so thank you very much, Daddy, and I am indeed blessed to have you in my life, and to talk to us this evening. Yes, Mr. Kolzak, any final thoughts in terms of
But to be honest,
mobilizing?
I was really enlightened this evening.
Okay.
What I really hear and them kind of thing. And I hope at least, just like I listen, I hope the people out there listening to, okay, and they will take a brave step, okay, a stopping this mandatory thing that man is going on with.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, and to our esteemed agronomist, Bishai, any final thoughts that you would have for us, please?
Well, I am heartened by the remarks by our learned and esteemed senior citizen.
Yes.
97, still going,
Yes.
no vaccine. People younger than him take vaccine and they're gone.
Yes.
So, how I see it, the solution to this pollution
Yes.
is for us to do like what the consensus is, and they've made it very clear.
Yes.
Start from the earth up. Deal with nature. Nature is the manifestation of the Creator.
Yes.
Okay? Any vaccine, any immune system that we have to build from what we intake.
Definitely.
We were created in the image and likeness of God to beat any pathogen,
Yeah.
because none of them could beat God.
Right.
And if we consider ourselves a part of God, it can't beat us. So all this fake world that they're trying to create with their artificial intelligence, their kind of technology, their genetically modified food and their vaccination, we have to leave that. Leave that alone. That's not going to get us anywhere. We have to fashion our own way. Start from the earth up. Fire, water, air, and earth. That's it, basically.
And I noticed we didn't touch much about online use of central bank digital currency. We didn't touch much about on that, but probably we can just probably one word or two. Probably Shaka, I'll swing at you just now in terms of the use of the digital currency in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have the cash. Central Bank, they launched that platform. What can you, just a few minutes, if we settle on that. The use of money, raw cash. They're saying now that they want to put an end to raw cash. How difficult do you see this? Or challenge or what?
You see, any sort of monetary system, we have to create our new economic system where the medium of exchange has to be easily acceptable and available and utilizable by the mass of the people. And if a digital currency at this time is not easily utilized by the mass of the people, we cannot accept that. We have to create our own thing. We must not let these people song and think, not because they control most of the media, that they are superior to us mentally or anyway, because they're not. They're really not. As a matter of fact, most of them not even on the same level with us.
Okay.
Okay? We must awaken our creative abilities. And a currency has to be based on something. Right? Right now, if you look at the world, all the paper money they have in the world, most of it has no value at all. It's not based on anything. It's not based on anything that has value like gold, diamond, whatever, oil, uranium. These are the things that are natural out there. You estimate them, you quantify them, you put a value to them, and then you could print paper almost to that value and trade.
Yes.
Paper is the medium to trade, okay? So we have to understand the fundamentals, the average person, of financial system, and any medium which allows our small traffickers, our small vendors, our shopkeepers, our taxi men to exchange money. You go right in a van and you walk with a cryptocurrency. And you went from Vermont to Kittels.
Right.
You need something that will facilitate something other. If you say that you can transfer funds in a certain way, like the people in some parts of Africa have done with their own technology. On the sea, you're fishing,
Yes.
you catch a fish, you flash the fish to a hotel, this is the value,
Yes.
this is value, and they transfer the money to your online account, which is different. And when you give them the fish, that is a kind of trading.
Okay.
But the face-to-face trading needs a different medium than a cryptocurrency. Okay? And the cryptocurrency has to be based on real economics. Not imagine economics like you're plundering somebody to create,
Yes.
a good,
Yes.
which then you put a value to.
Right. Yes.
Our people in the whole Americas, our people
And
like
you're
us,
saying that we
are the ones who created the wealth in the Americas, and we are the lowest
so you're
economic
saying
growth.
that we have persons among us.
Exactly.
Our indigenous peoples.
Yes.
Maybe not many are here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, but the rest of the Caribbean, we have people who are able to create such a system.
Exactly.
And we have the linkages that are already established so that we can continue with our network.
Beautiful.
With our networking within the region.
Beautiful.
We are advocating for indigenous, homegrown, technology.
Let me just give you one example, give the people one example what is happening. In the colonial days, and I got this from reading the history of agriculture in St. Vincent and Grenadines, the estates used to borrow money from the colonial banks, Barclays and otherwise, right, to finance the crop. Because they had an idea of the value of what the crop was from history. So for example, if Monty had an estate and he was growing arrowroot, and for the last 5 years his arrowroot valued £10,000 sterling,
Yes, yes.
they would pre-lend him about 80% of that to finance his crop. That is now you could take that and make a cryptocurrency from that, from 8,000, and say, Monty, go and spend that money.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing, it's based on something. Okay? We in the Caribbean, we have very intelligent people in all the Caribbean islands.
Absolutely.
Real creative people.
Absolutely.
But they have not been given and allowed the space to develop their creativity.
Yes.
And creativity is the main driver of economic development.
Correct.
So once you stifle people's creativity, you stifle their economic development potential. And that is what we have to release, and that is what we are here to release.
Okay, great. Yes, finally, back to Shaka, Shaka, any final thoughts on any aspect of what we have discussed?
Well, me people, if you notice what go on here, Doris and no give me no cookie and bread and still what to talk. I don't know what they want to say.
Okay.
Anyway, so
tomorrow you're going to get
now
the potato.
we have one right here, so now is we must be in control of our food in reality. Because, okay, talking about
We must be in control of our food. Yes, what we eat.
Yeah.
We can't trust those folks who send us stuff from overseas in cans and all of that.
And moreover, you're talking about money. Money is bartering, money is bargaining. What do we bring to the table? Because they're talking about all this crypto and boom to and you know what all them to it. But all them to they start to
Trigger to.
Trigger to and all them kind of things. When all them to they start to take place now, we still have to have something to put on the table if we want to get them to it. And the only thing we could have to put on the table is our food.
Yes.
Our food security.
So food security, food safety, food production, adding value to our food, being able to feed ourselves, those are critical areas. Yes.
Food.
Yes.
Because you
No,
see-
without food we will die.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, that's where we have to go. Because regardless to, no, okay, money, yeah.
Yes.
But in reality,
Yes.
money can't buy good food, we have seen that.
Okay.
Good food can only be planted by us.
So in the absence of a vaccination card, that means you're not going to be issued with a card because you're not taking the vaccine. In the absence of the use of digital currency, that is online transactions, you are still saying that St. Vincent and the Grenadines can operate off-grid, meaning that we can become a sustainable economy here on the island.
Example.
But it will take a change in our
In the
mindset.
Right.
Now, for example,
Yes,
warriors like Dave and Bisha and Iman,
yes,
we have gone through that training already, off the grid, where we survive, where we live, not survive, live for years without spending money, without buying anything at all from the system, right? We know how that is because, now how easy is that? Our forebearers has taught us one thing. Anywhere we journey on this land and we see water,
Yes.
that is life.
right.
So right, we journey to the hills, we find water, we set up it, we go, we own food. We had gotten to the stage where we was building our shanties without meal.
True.
Absolutely nothing from the system. So then we know this indigenous life, right?
And
But-
that there's value in that system, yes.
and it is our only escape from them. Because once they have to feed you, you
Yes.
can't escape them.
No.
Well, ladies and
Who
gentlemen,
feed you, control you.
ladies
Yeah,
and
right.
gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for viewing and listening to us this afternoon. 1.5 hours or a little more than that, we have been engaged in a diversity of conversations, and we are happy that you have been part of us. And once again, he has shown you, O mortal, what is good and what does the Lord require of you. To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. I want to thank Mr. Gregory Edwards, better known as Shaka, Rashaka, Mr. Dave Kolzak, or David Kolzak, better known as Rasdev to me, Mr. Clive Bishop, better known as Bishai, and my father, Mr. John Horace Davis Frederick, for enlightening us this afternoon. And again, I am your humble servant, Doris Charles, wishing you a very pleasant evening. And once again, remember,
Doris again.
And God bless.
No, we rebellious, so now bringing me last piece of rebellion. No, we have not.
Yes.
You know the way me not know what the word activist means, look at me, not act me for it.
Yeah.
Read of it.